Today, we got massive news that the SEC decided to charge Binance Holdings, the US-based affiliate which operates together with Binance, for a violation of US securities laws. This case runs very deep, and it has massive implications for the crypto space as a whole. So in today's show, we are going to break down the sanctions against Binance, and we are going to dig deep into the potential implications for the crypto space and what it means for you. Without further ado, let's get straight into the show. One comment that the Binance chief compliance officer that they made in 2018 has really come back to bite them when he said, "We are operating as an effing unlicensed securities exchange in the USA, bro." That was one of the very funny lines that actually came out of this case that went against Binance. And we saw an entire civil action against Binance from the United States District Court for the District of Columbia officially get filed today. And in today's video, we're going to break down some of the key points here and what it means for crypto's biggest exchange. And, when something happens to the biggest exchange in crypto, of course, this is going to have massive implications for the market because that is where a lot of the trading volume is. Now, just straight off the bat, how did Bitcoin respond? Bitcoin did respond with a minus 5.18% decline. It's basically been adhering to its trend, though. It's kind of funny that even though we had a massive FUD event, Bitcoin is still adhering to this general structure I've been talking about really for the last 2 months on the show because nothing's really happened. We've just been in this downwards trend where you have your highs set in a 31K into resistance, then you have your lower highs again, and then another lower high again. Of course, deviation above this trend line, but nonetheless, following the general diagonal downwards trend, and that did result in a break of that key level that I discussed last week on the show, the 26.5 level. Of course, you break that and you can start to have even further downwards targets. So Bitcoin right now currently under both deviation lows below 26.5, which indicates to me that we are losing support and now there is, I guess, license to go even lower. Now, who knows whether it will happen? We could easily see this dip being eaten up after the FUD surpasses. However, this is an indication to me that Bitcoin can go even further down. Given the fact that we did break below a key level, of course, we do need to close below this on the daily for us to affirm the bearish trend is going to maintain momentum. You always want to look for candle closes in crypto, but this was a sign that the dip could just be beginning, especially once we broke below that level. So that's something to keep your eye on Bitcoin, but nothing. No surprise to the ones that watch the show. We've kind of been tracking this chart for the last couple months, and basically nothing has changed. We're still in a downtrend. When you're in a downtrend, you short more than you long. It's that simple. The ones that were max long, I'm sorry. I guess taking a scalp long at the 26.5 level wasn't stupid as long as you had a stop below. And if you took that last week, you may have ended up making profits in the short term. Either moved your stop up to entry and gotten stopped out, or ended up taking some profits. So hopefully the ones that traded that did okay, or at least broke even. And then the ones that didn't, you're in an okay position because it was good in hindsight not to actually end up longing. In terms of how the altcoins responded, we had some of the big movers of the last couple of weeks. ApeCoin heading into the Apple announcement, which we got today, as well as Sandbox, that metaverse stuff. Render, which is super hot off the AI NVIDIA wave. We started to see some of these come down. So we've seen double-digit losses across Render, ApeCoin, Aptos, Sandbox, 𝗵𝗵𝗄𝗃, Pepe. The strong performers have been some of the weakest performers today, as well as Conflux, which was running off the back of the China narrative, the June 1st Hong Kong crypto legalization narrative. They all saw double-digit losses today, as well as some of the other coins that have had their own kind of ambiguous circumstances around them, like Phantom in the midst of the multi-chain news. You also have some other coins as well, like BNB, of course, that is in the middle of this SEC case. Optimism, which has been in the middle of a massive unlock. There's no surprise here that some of these names are on the list of some of the biggest decliners for the day. But still Bitcoin dominance. We'll discuss this at the end of the show when we do some charting and we look at some trade scenarios. Bitcoin dominance is actually still breaking down. So interesting that the odds are holding up okay. But I want to get, of course, into the nitty-gritty of this Binance case and discuss that as the major part of today's video. And then we'll do the trading-based stuff at the end. Quickly, before we get into that, I want to announce that I started a new TikTok. I had issues with my last account. but I'm creating a new account in a new niche. I'm going to be covering a lot more tech/AI and not just crypto, but I also am going to be doing daily crypto updates. So I'm planning on posting here 3 times every single day. I know it's a lot, but I actually really enjoy making short form content, and that's something I want to persist with. So for everyone that is interested in daily crypto, AI, tech market updates, and alpha, I'm going to be doing short form content over there if you prefer short form content. So there's a link in the description. If you follow me using the link in the description and you comment done or just anything on this video, anything you want, I'm actually going to give away $100 to someone, just as a little bone for the ones that want to support me on this TikTok journey early on this new account. So yeah, if you follow me using the link in the description, it's the first link on TikTok, as well as comment on this video, comment done or something, to make it obvious that you're participating in the giveaway. I'll just give away $100 to someone within the next 24 hours. I'll just simply reply to you on TikTok. Very simple. Link in the description for that. Follow, comment, and I will give away $100 to someone that follows me. So link in the description to the TikTok. This first video that I posted is pretty good, in my opinion. I think it's an interesting one. So I kind of wanted to post a nice video to kind of kick off the account. So if you guys want to watch that. It's about NVIDIA, GPU power, and render, and what it means for the future of kind of crypto and AI. So I think this is an interesting one to kick it off, if you guys want to go check that out. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the Binance stuff. That is the big topic of, someone said he's a huge fan. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Someone said, when on earth are gambling alts finally move? When will they finally move? Well, I think the narrative needs to catch another bit at some point. There's a few catalysts which could be behind that, but we'll talk about that at the end. We'll do an altcoin Q&A. But in the meantime, someone said they commented, Elvis, you are now in the running for $100. Mike said they are entering as well. You're in the running as well, you guys. But yeah, link in the description to the TikTok. All right, let's get into it. So Bloomberg reported that the US SEC sues Binance and the CEO, 𝗕𝗍, for breaking US securities rules. Earlier, the US CFTC, that's the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, sued Binance and 𝗕𝗍 for violating US derivatives rules. Today's media sources speculate that Binance may actually change its CEO as a result of this SEC action. The SEC accused Binance of mishandling customer funds, as well as lying to regulators and investors about its operations in 13 charges filed on Monday. The regulator said Binance had been mixing billions of dollars in customer funds and secretly sending them to a separate company controlled by 𝗕𝗍. The charges include misleading investors about the adequacy of its systems to detect and control manipulative trading. Regulators also said Binance did not take sufficient steps to restrict US investors from accessing Binance's unregulated exchange. These are big claims against Binance, and this is a very severe case, albeit a civil, not a criminal case against 𝗕𝗍, but this is a very big case against Binance in the US, and it makes sense that they've been pulling out in recent months from the countries like the US in terms of what services they offer in the face of what is a pretty big regulatory action. So the actual filing is 136 pages, as you can see here at the bottom. I'm not going to go through 136 pages, but using AI, someone actually went through and summarized the entire thing. So let's just read the summary to save you hours and hours and hours of time. And I've also picked out a few lines from the report that I found particularly interesting and relevant. So let's just go through the summary now. The main points of the document against Binance and 𝗕𝗍 are as follows. Binance and its associated entities unlawfully solicited US investors to buy, sell, and trade crypto asset securities through unregistered trading platforms. Many crypto tokens were called securities and called unregistered securities that they didn't have provision to offer to US customers. We'll go through the list in a minute of the cryptos that were actually called securities, because that could have implications for those cryptos specifically as well. 2, the defendants engaged in multiple unregistered offers and sales of crypto asset securities and other investment schemes. I'm assuming this applies to a lot of the yield-based earn products. 3, the defendants defrauded equity, retail, and institutional investors about purported surveillance and controls over manipulative trading on the US platform, which were in fact virtually non-existent. So what they're saying here is that they basically lied about some of the protections that were being offered, when in fact not many protections to protect against manipulative trading were in place at all, and it was mainly a facade. Of course, none of this has been proven. This needs to go to court. They need to fight this and nut it out. Maybe they settle. But a lot of this information over the next few months is, of course, going to come to light. Number 4, the defenders evaded regulatory oversight in the US by unlawfully offering essential securities market functions without registering with the SEC. Now, this one's kind of difficult because the SEC, as Binance alluded to in their response, which we'll get into, basically didn't give Binance or Coinbase or any of these crypto companies much of an opportunity to register or comply with them. So it's kind of like a lose-lose situation for a lot of these crypto exchanges, because even if they do want to comply and they do want to do the right thing, the US made it extremely hard to do so. The SEC basically just doesn't want to cooperate. I would consider this entire sanction to come under the US Choke Point 2.0 wave, which is basically an initiative from the US government in a roundabout way to cut off the on and off ramps to crypto, to kind of starve liquidity in the ecosystem. So I've touched a lot about that theory on how the US is trying to kill crypto. That headline is quite dramatic, but at the end of the day, in a roundabout way, that's what they're doing. And this is just another one of the pieces that fit into the jigsaw puzzle here when it comes to choke point. And Binance clearly is the biggest crypto exchange. It totally makes sense from the SEC's perspective, if you're going after crypto, to go after Binance. And I have no doubt that Binance probably did some things wrong, by the way, because this space is evolving so quickly. It almost grew quicker than the regulatory framework could evolve. So things were happening so quick, and these exchanges were kind of just running with what they thought on the go, and there wasn't really a regulatory framework to fit in. So a lot of these exchanges got away with a lot of stuff they thought they could get away with. Maybe in the end, some of that stuff, is going to end up coming back to bite them in the ass. And that's what we're seeing here. Number 5, the defenders made misrepresentations to investors about controls they claim to have implemented. Number 6, 𝗕𝗍 and Binance developed a plan to evade US legal scrutiny while continuing to profit from investors. And number 7, the SEC is seeking permanent injunctions, disgorgement of ill-gotten gains. This is an interesting one. So any gains that they had made off acts can essentially be recouped somehow to presumably the creditors, but also maybe the US government in the form of fines. It's going to be interesting to see what they can actually apply there. And if Binance, if they're even liable at all. That's a very interesting point of the filings here. Civil money penalties and a permanent bar for 𝗕𝗍 from acting as an officer or director of any issuer whose securities are registered. They're basically, trying to bar him from acting as a director of a financial company that operates in the US. And, already off the back of that, we have seen calls for 𝗕𝗍 to step down as the CEO of Binance, and they may well end up doing that. I think in many ways, 𝗕𝗍's been a great leader, but from the company perspective, it would honestly just make sense in many ways for that to be the case, unfortunately. But also in many ways, I understand if 𝗕𝗍 wanted to stay as the CEO. He's always been, he's always strived to be a good leader, in my opinion. Obviously, they have made mistakes, but I have liked his approach in many of the key debates and many of the key issues in the crypto space. I've never kind of thought he was really out of pocket or out of touch, like someone like SBF. He's always come across as fairly reasonable to me, and I think in many ways he's been a great leader. But Binance, of course, will have to decide what they want to do for the sake of their business and the sake of their reputation in the US. And if that means 𝗕𝗍 stepping down as CEO, that's what it may mean. We're just going to need to see how that plays out. Or they could just take, the strong, firm approach here and say, no, we're going to continue as a company and we're going to fight this. That's also a possibility. Now, after all these reports started flying around today, 𝗕𝗍 came out and responded. He said, our team is standing by ensuring systems are stable, including withdrawals and deposits. We will issue a response once we see the complaint. Haven't seen it yet. Media gets the info before we do. After that, the official complaint did launch. This is the same complaint that I have been referencing. But when he first responded, that complaint wasn't fully out, but it did end up leaking. A very interesting trend here that I want to touch on before we get into the individual cryptos at stake, in terms of which ones were called securities and what the implications are. A very interesting trend here is the DEX versus centralized exchange trend. We have seen the ratio increase of DEX versus centralized exchange volume by 195.45% since September 2022. So what this basically means is DEX volume has almost tripled versus centralized exchange volume for a few reasons, but one of which is because there's kind of a bit of a distrust growing when it comes to centralized exchanges, coupled with very strict and stringent KYC and securities policy, which now does make it harder for people to trade on centralized exchanges. So we have seen a bit of a migration. This is a trend I expect to continue. And off the back of this, there are going to be massive beneficiaries in this space. So out of all of this, one of the takeaways that I want you to take away from this video is the potential benefit that this could have on decentralized products and DeFi as a whole. This is like an actual tangible material growth in where people are deciding to trade. And that's something I wouldn't take lightly. 𝗕𝗆𝗃𝗧 said if the market turns out to be oversold from this news, which it may be, but we need to see where Bitcoin settles. Firstly, we need a daily close to determine that. He says, I would not be surprised to see perp tokens, so he's referencing things like GMX, GNS, Apex, DYDX, that kind of stuff, bounce back strong. More traders might be forced to move on chain as this progresses. And look, it's interesting because this could just be another catalyst to accelerate this migration that we've already seen taking place. And this ratio, if I had to guess, is probably going to become closer to 30 to 40% over the next few months. I expect this to double and go even higher over the next year. Big call when you actually think about it, but this is the trend I'm seeing. And just anecdotally, like amongst a lot of my friends and companions in the crypto space, a lot of them are now preferring to trade on DEXs. Adam Cochran said, this is also a good time to remind you to get your assets off Binance and into a wallet that you own. They claim to be backed one-to-one, so there shouldn't be a bank run issue. CZ did assure users that they were still processing withdrawals. But people learnt the hard way, Adam says, with FTX about being too trusting. You don't owe an exchange loyalty. And I 100% agree in the sense that you don't need to keep all your money on one exchange. Like I would diversify across, cold wallets, hot wallets, Binance, OKX, BitGet. I would just spread it out across as many exchanges as possible, and then you're diversified, right? So if one exchange goes down, hopefully, where there's smoke, there's fire, you withdraw. But if for some reason you're unlucky and you get stuck in an exchange that goes down, at least you're diversified. So if you're not diversified and you have all your money in Binance or you have all your money in one exchange, this is a simple reminder to you to start diversifying. And of course, once you are on chain, once you are on a MetaMask wallet or another wallet of your choice, that's going to open up the opportunity for you to trade on chain and use a lot of these decentralized perps like Apex, like GNS, that offer a unique experience, which enables you to keep self-custody of your own assets. I think that's very important. And look, originally when these DEX products launched, they were very unimpressive. They only had a couple pairs. They were slow. The order books weren't very full. But now we're actually seeing, because of this migration of volume, these DEXs are actually now starting to really improve in their efficiency. Like Apex, the order books are a lot deeper, and we have many more pairs on offer now to trade with, and more leverage options. At GNS, same thing. We have many more pairs, a very composable trading experience, a very quick, fast, easy trading experience. The overall experience has gotten a lot better. So, at first, it was a bit of like a LARP comment to say, oh, DEXs versus sexes, bro, because, they were just slow and not really great to use. But now they are. So that's an even more compelling reason for someone to decide, well, if I do want to leave a centralized exchange, now I have like viable alternatives to actually use. So look, if you do want to use these, there's many. There's DYDX, there's Apex, there's GNS, there's GMX, there's 𝗕𝗘𝗃, there's many. But I do like Apex and GNS, who are also show sponsors. And there is a link in the description to either one of them. Apex, you have the trade to earn program where they're giving away $10 million over a 52-week period. So the more you trade, the more you earn. And Gains as well offers a nice trading experience for those who want to trade on Arbitrum. I think Apex is also on a few networks as well. Arbitrum, BNB, Polygon, AVAX, etc. So link in the description to these if you are looking for a new DEX home. I recommend those because they are the ones that I personally use, and they also offer a nice trading experience as well. Okay, let's get into some of the nitty-gritty with the case. Now that I made that point, which I think was one of the important takeaways I wanted to get across. We went through the summary, the summary of this case, but there are a few very interesting lines here. One interesting one was when the SEC called under point 4 BNB a security in the latest case. We see here, second, Binance and BAM Trading have unlawfully engaged in unregistered sales of crypto assets, including Binance's own crypto assets called BNB and BUSD. So they also called the stablecoin a security, likely because of its earn program, which they highlighted here as the BNB Vault and the Simple Earn program, and a so-called staking investment scheme available on Binance.us. In so doing, they have deprived investors of material information, including the risks and trends that affect the enterprise and an investment in these securities. So basically, they came out and said BNB was a security, so was BUSD and the Earn products as well. In the filing, they also claimed that Solana, ADA, Matic, Filecoin, Atom, Sand, etc. are all securities. So this extends to other crypto assets as well. Basically, if you call these securities, then all crypto assets apart from Bitcoin are a security. That is the stance that is becoming more evidently clear that the SEC wants to take. Whether they're actually going to be able to prove this to the courts and whether this will actually become precedent going forward, we don't know. I mean, the XRP case is the first major case that needs to conclude. That will set a major precedent for token sales, ICO sales, like XRP. That's a massive one. This Binance case is going to be huge as well. The FTX case, the findings from that are going to be huge as well. So this will actually need to go to court. If the SEC says something, it doesn't necessarily make it law until we actually have like a strong precedent that gets set. This is a very pivotal moment for crypto. I obviously hope that things like Solana, ADA, Matic aren't called securities because there are implications. It obviously makes them a lot less liquid, harder to trade, limits the amount of business that can be done on trading. I do expect some coins to be called securities. I think it's reasonable that the SEC wants to protect investors. I don't think Bitcoin's a security. It's pretty clear now, actually, that it's a commodity. Does this strengthen the Bitcoin versus altcoin argument? Probably. From a dominance perspective, a lot of investors, especially institutions, probably feel more comfortable in Bitcoin now, versus some of these other cryptos. The big one's ETH, though. We obviously don't want Ethereum to be considered a security. That has conflicting opinions from the SEC and the CFTC. So basically, we're in a very gray area right now as to what and what isn't a security. But what we do know is that the SEC is claiming that all these assets are securities, and by Binance listing them and offering trading and offering staking on them, that they were participating in unregistered securities offerings. So that is basically what they're saying there. Now, it was this line from the chief of compliance in 2018 that really was dumb when he said, "We are operating as an effing unlicensed securities exchange in the USA, bro." I mean, this line was so incriminating that it was the line that the SEC actually chose to use as their flagship display when they announced these sanctions against Binance. So this is they literally tweeted this. That's how damning that line was. And look, all you can really do is laugh because the fact that he said that is hilarious. Maybe not so much for Binance, but as a viewer, it's just it's honestly humorous. We also saw that the SEC stated that at least $145 million was transferred to a CZ-controlled entity in which he bought a yacht. So some of the claims here is that there was a commingling of funds, or basically, funds were being transferred unlawfully from the Binance exchange to entities that CZ owned, and he would then use that as leverage to buy things like houses and yachts, etc. That is kind of the claim here. Whether that can be proven is another thing, but that is one of the claims. So, of course, just because the SEC claims something doesn't make it true, but of course, it's important to note that they are saying that CZ-controlled entities were unlawfully using funds from Binance users. So, after all this, Binance came out and they officially issued a response just a couple hours ago. So this is what they said. "We are disappointed that the US SEC chose to file a complaint today against Binance, seeking, amongst other remedies, purported emergency relief. From the start, we have actively cooperated with the SEC's investigations and have worked hard to answer their questions and address their concerns. More recently, we have engaged in extensive good faith discussions to reach a negotiated settlement to resolve their investigations. But despite our efforts, with its complaint today, the SEC abandoned that process and instead chose to act unilaterally and litigate. We are disheartened by that choice. While we take the SEC's allegations seriously, they should not be subject of an SEC enforcement action, let alone on an emergency basis. We intend to defend our platform vigorously. Unfortunately, the SEC's refusal to productively engage with us is just another example of the Commission's misguided and conscious refusal to provide much-needed clarity and guidance to the digital asset industry." Wow, big words. And I mean, I could go through and read the rest, but if you want to do it in your own time, it basically just extends on those points. These first two paragraphs basically sum it up, that what Binance is trying to get across here is that they tried to work with the SEC. The SEC didn't want to work with them. Discussions in good faith were turned against them, and now they have a complaint that they need to fight. But they were pretty aware, in my opinion, of the fact that this was going to happen. I mean, 𝗕𝗏𝗕𝗏𝗧 said, according to a source close to Binance, the company knew there was a high likelihood that the SEC would file the exact same complaint that the CFTC did. If you guys remember back to a few months ago, the CFTC actually filed a complaint. Now this is an official SEC complaint marking those assets as securities. They apparently were not made aware that the action was coming down today. So they knew it was happening. They didn't know it was happening now. They obviously had some time to prepare, but maybe not as much time as they thought. Who knows? But, you know, Binance has been withdrawing from not just the US, many other countries in the meantime, like England. They recently cut off the on and off ramps in Australia. They've been really withdrawing strategically in countries that they think maybe they're losing ground in, which is quite interesting. You know, what's funny is, like, it's pretty strong. It's pretty strongly or pretty widely thought that Binance had some idea that these sanctions would come down, and before the actual sanctions did come down, we saw insiders were already short BNB for the last couple of days. So that's interesting to note. You can see insiders shorting here by the open interest starting to develop to the downside, or, you know, positioning of short positions already beginning, starting a couple weeks ago. So there are probably people that were aware of this. This is on the 15-minute chart, so it becomes clearer, you know, over the purview of the last 2 days. But it was clear that there were some people shorting this. I don't know if word leaked or what, but yeah, a bit of price action on BNB started to indicate something was coming. Something some of our researchers picked up on a couple of days ago, that the volume was looking a little weird. And I mean, in the end, that ended up being proved true by what was pretty massive news that came out. Adam Cochran said, a lot of people miss this part. The SEC explicitly claims that CZ traded user funds, transferred them to a trading entity he owned, and traded them with third parties. If that's true, that's SBF level BS. That's something we touched on when it came to the whole accusation of him using customer funds to buy a yacht. That is kind of SBF level BS in a way, but, you know, I'm not going to jump to conclusions and say that he did do it unlawfully. We don't know, but this is something like a pretty big allocation against CZ. Damon says, we're about to find out if the largest centralized exchange is actually solvent or not. For real, though, if Binance becomes insolvent, bid goodbye to crypto for a long time. Definitely. I mean, this is going to cause a lot of withdrawals. I'm sure it's going to cause a lot of panic. Binance will be stress tested. I do believe they have enough reserves. I think their proof of reserves, I mean, they didn't really establish strong liabilities, but we did get some evidence as to the fact that they hold, you know, a lot of the crypto that's actually backing the crypto on the exchange. So in a bank run environment, I hope that it would hold up. But if it didn't hold up, well, that's disastrous for crypto. So that would be the real doomsday scenario. If there is a bank run and it doesn't hold up, that would be the worst scenario. I don't think that will play out. Personally, I think it will be okay. From a bank run perspective, from a business perspective, I do expect the market share to continue to shrink. That's just, you know, a logical assumption here. A lot of, you know, other companies are aggressively gaining market share. Binance, you know, volumes obviously dropped, probably as a function of market conditions, but they're also pulling out of a lot of countries. But that is like a Binance specific issue. In terms of the, you know, overall health of the crypto space, it should be okay as long as there is no like huge bank run on Binance, which I don't think will happen. The securities precedent that the SEC is setting is probably the other macro crypto headwind you have to take note of. Another thing you have to take note of is the fact that this is a civil action. So the charges that were brought against Binance by the SEC and the CFTC are civil lawsuits. So they're not actually criminal charges like the SBF charge, which is like a key distinction to make. We may see criminal charges against CZ, but this action was a civil action, not a criminal action, which would force presumed extradition against CZ, and that would result in, you know, maybe an arrest and a similar SBF style scenario. That is not what's happening yet. It's still civil. The SEC is going harder at Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, Ripple. Yeah, it's funny. These are four of the biggest players in crypto. They're all getting pummeled. The SEC is chucking their resources headfirst at some of these companies than it ever did at FTX. That says all you need to know about the situation. I know the irony here. The SEC let the FTX situation developed, they let SBF execute a long-lasting and severe multi-billion-dollar fraud over the span of years, really. Yet they didn't do anything until the very end. In fact, Sam, according to all reports, was working with Gary and other, members of the US space, and they did nothing until the very end, where the media kind of forced them to. Whereas now they're cracking down on Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, Ripple harder than they ever cracked down on FTX. The irony here is crazy. It's insane. It's insane. I mean, great job at protecting investors, Gary. Great job at protecting people. They're going after the exchanges that actually in many ways had good faith in the forefront. Of course, they built a profit. Of course, they probably bended the law a little bit. They probably pushed the limits a little bit in the face of what was a crazy bull market, and I'm sure they made mistakes. But in terms of like pure intent, it's pretty hard to argue that so a Coinbase or a Kraken is as liable as something like an FTX was, which was like basically a clear scam. Many of the systems that were put in place. So will people forget about this, or will this be something long lasting and cause material detriment to the crypto market in the medium to long term? Well, last time Binance was probed by the DOJ, it was really like a 24-hour episode, and then the market recovered. CFTC as well, short episode, the market recovered. BNB token, probably more of a headwind there than the overall crypto market. Your other overall crypto market headwinds, the ones I've already mentioned, the securities precedent, and also the possibility for bank run, and also the fact that we're losing a major player, which drives a lot of volume. Now, that's already happened. Volume's already low. Interest in crypto is the lowest it's been since 2020. So though that environment is a function of itself. But in terms of this news, will it be forgotten? As Sassel says here, maybe it will, at least in the short term. But what if I had to guess and anticipate what would happen, we may see some downside, things might recover. Then in a couple months, some more data will come out. We'll see another flash crash again. Then in a couple of months, some more info will come out. We're just going to continue to see regulatory headwinds result in these drops. This is just a new market condition now. Like, we are going to see intermittent, infrequent, sporadic crypto market drops as a result of sanctioning. And then occasionally we're going to see massive pumps as a result of huge wins. Ripple wins the lawsuit. Big pump. Potentially for Ripple. I'm not saying it will happen, but could happen, and probably sets a precedent for crypto, which is good. That could be a bullish thing. You see a Binance win in key areas, and that could be great for the crypto market. We're going to see losses. We're going to see wins. I think over time we're going to get to a place where we have regulatory clarity, and crypto can operate in the US. Unfortunately, what this is doing, as you guys know, it's driving a lot of innovation offshore. That's fine. Maybe the US is just less of a player now. And, Hong Kong and Abu Dhabi and even the UK, who seemingly are embracing some aspects of crypto, they're going to gain market share. Hopefully Australia as well. That they have been a little, slow with it, but some of the signs I'm seeing from Australia have been good in terms of their approach. Not perfect, because this is a new technology, but better than the US, that's for sure. So a lot of these other companies that are willing to embrace this innovation, they will benefit. So I don't think cryptos are going to die. I'm still bullish long term, of course. This is just another one of these short-term headwinds, and it's just a little reason to cause volatility. Maybe you're happy this is giving us volatility because maybe you're a trader, and traders don't really care about directional bias. They just want volume. This is giving the market some volume, albeit, it's downside volume. But at least we are seeing some sort of reaction from the market. By the way, if you have been shorting this trend line, I think you would have done pretty damn well. As a side note, it's given you like now 5 trades to make money on shorts on alts, not Bitcoin, of course, because dominance has been going up. Now we're actually seeing dominance drop. I'm going to touch on that in just a second. I just want to wrap up on this Binance thing though. So yeah, basically I do think this will blow over. But as I said, we'll see sporadic moments where this comes back into the news and we see flash crashes, and then hopefully we also see the opposite happen at times and things also recover off the back of good news. I think in general though, the US's tendency is to issue bad news over good news for now. But the narratives change with the sentiment. In a bull run, when you see negative regulatory news hit, it's absorbed by the fact that prices and demand are so high. So people don't really care. In a bear market, because people are kind of looking for that bearish confirmation bias, the bearish news really sticks out like a sore thumb and affects price more because there's less, buy side pressure. So in a bear market, these things hit the market a lot more than in a bull market. But in a bull market, we did get negative news as well. It's just kind of the good stuff just kind of shines over the bad stuff. And even good news in this market is getting kind of dismissed because, it's a bear market. So it is a function of the market in general as well. That's something to note. So let's look at the crypto market now. Let's do some TA. Let's have a look at what is performing well, what the next path is forward for Bitcoin, ETH, and alts. To wrap up this video, now you understand what's happening more with the Binance case, and then I'll answer some questions. Biggest, I already went through at the start of the show the reasons for specific tokens dropping. Luna Classic had a big pump and also dropped. Basically, it's pretty stock standard that you could basically come up with a reason for why everything in the top 10 has dropped. Some of these have just dropped because they're pumped a lot and they're just pulling back based on the news. Some of these have dropped more because, they have negativity surrounding them. And the Binance news coupled with negativity has resulted in steeper drops. If we go into the middle of the field here in terms of, your 5 to 7% drawdowns, we see the typical, big ones. Bitcoin's in this range, Polkadot, AVAX, Chainlink, everything's basically down. Most major coins are down between 4% and 8%, and then you have your outliers at the top, which are down even more, but a lot of them, like Sandbox, which are down like 14%, they're pumped a lot. So the Apple news was a buy the rumor, sell the news event for a lot of these. We kind of knew that was going to be the case, as what happens into most big conferences. I don't know if it was pumping mostly based on narrative, but maybe people were hoping there'd be some sort of integration announcement that didn't happen. Couple that with the Binance news, you get a big drop. What's actually holding up today? That's also interesting to note because in times of bearishness, what shows relative strength can also be a good indicator as what can pump harder when things reverse. Stablecoins are pumping. Not really. They're just obviously not dropping because they're stablecoins. But in terms of like actual coins that are pumping, you've got the BitGet token. This isn't actually pumping, it's still down, but I'm just talking about, what's down less on a relative basis versus other coins. Interestingly, OKX and BitGet, probably because they are competitors to Binance. Binance loses market share. That's probably a positive for other centralized exchanges. That probably explains why these have dropped less than the others. You've also got Quant. I don't know what's happening in terms of the news there, but that's one to note. Huobi and KuCoin as well. So the trend here is pretty clear. The ones that are affected the least are the other exchanges because there's some sort of material benefit for them potentially from a Binance sanction. You also have Monero, Privacy Coin. You've got Radix, that's been a strong performer as well. Tron, volume still very high with its stablecoin use case. I use TRX for a lot of stablecoin transactions. Liquid staking, I know you look at this and go, oh, they're down 5%, but 5% compared to some of these others is not that bad. That's a very strong narrative, the LSD trend right now. I did a show like a couple months ago on this. As you guys know, I've spoken about it a lot of times. This is still a very strong trend. And actually, these tokens are some of the tokens that have, stayed, like Rocket Pool especially, that have actually gained. So most tokens are down 30% since that video. Rocket Pool and Frax, they're like, Frax has dropped a bit, but Rocket Pool's actually gained. I remember talking about that at, $29, $30, again at $35, $40, it's $47 now. So that's been a strong one. And you guys know I also said that was my favorite because that's where I was seeing a lot of the ETH starting to flow into because of the flexibility you have with spinning up a validator node on Rocket Pool. So that's interesting, but there are a lot of other ones like Tenant and Anchor and Frax and Lido being the big one that are also interesting ones. So that's a very strong narrative that I don't think is going away for a long time. And liquid staking comprises a decent percentage of my portfolio for that reason. We'll get into question at a bit. Someone said, look at render price. Okay, let's do a little bit of TA and we'll also look at Bitcoin ETH as we go on here. All right, so render I actually have a deep dive on render coming out in the next couple of days. It's really going to explain the fundamentals behind the token. I think it's a great one. We're now dropping into an interesting zone from a TA perspective. I might even start nibbling at $2 at this 2.1 level because even if you come down here and we manage to hold that level, that's quite good because you still have this trend of higher lows, right? And that would be your next higher low. So that would be interesting. It's not really until we break this level that you get worried. And even then, you have horizontal structure at 150. So maybe a catch a falling knife situation on render. But after the Apple announcement, probably going to start losing some hype in the short term. So I do expect a pullback here. So I would not ape at 2-1. Maybe at 1-4, I get more interested in that. Like in terms of like bigger buys. Someone said you load it up. I really like it long term. Actually, on my TikTok, this video is about render. So once again, just to remind you guys, maybe if you joined late and you don't know, I started a new TikTok account, which will be more AI focused, also crypto focused though, which will post 3 videos every day. Alpha packed, I hope. So yeah, if you want to follow that using the first link in the description. I'm also giving away $100 to someone that follows me, firstly, and secondly, comments on this video. So yeah, let's refresh and see how many of you have already done it. 335. So this is getting some traction. So yeah, that also explains render a little bit more for the ones that want to understand the fundamentals. I'm going to cover a lot more AI stuff in the future. In fact, I'm working on an awesome series to help you guys implement AI into your investing to make yourself a better investor. That's why I haven't been streaming much lately, because I've been so focused on researching AI. Like literally, you can probably tell I'm a bit sick. All weekend, I was sick, but I was just like on my laptop playing with all the AI tools, playing with trading bots. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm excited to share it with you. But all the content's edited, so it's not live. All the content will be, polished, well-researched, and yeah, I'm excited to share that content with you. I think we're really going to level up the content from these shows. So hopefully I still get a chance to live stream like once a week or once every couple of weeks, but I'll probably be moving more out of lives and into, and I might still do lives on Instagram. Link in the description to my Instagram if you like the live stuff as well. But in terms of banter, I think a lot more is going to be like highly edited content. So that's going to be good. Save you guys time as well, because some of these videos are 10 minutes, but they're just packed with alpha, which I think is really cool as well. So another update in terms of the Bitcoin dominance is dominance has started to now break down, which is good. It's interesting because we've had a Bitcoin dip today, but we've seen an altcoin on a relative basis. We've seen the altcoins hold up okay. So I know a lot of them are down a lot, but Bitcoin is down 6%. That's a lot versus some of these alts. So Joby says he loves AI, man. I do as well. I'm pretty sure you'll be mind blown by a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be sharing with you over the next couple of weeks. Because I was like, when I realized what I could do in crypto, like automating research, automating trading bots, using like machine learning, I was mind blown. Like automating my entire DeFi research process to like find the best yields. It was crazy. And some of these tools are just nuts. So definitely a field I can't wait to share more with you. And that's one of the reasons why I started the TikTok, to give you guys, and I also post some of these videos on my Instagram, to give you guys more of an insight into that world as well. But also we'll be covering it on YouTube too. Also, I want to make it clear I'm not leaving crypto. These videos are involving crypto. So it's more taking the angle of like, what can we do now in a bear market to make ourselves better investors and make ourselves more efficient and more profitable? And I believe AI is one of the ways to do that. That has only really been recently unlocked as a possibility due to very rapid investment and developments into that sector. So dominance starting to drop a little bit. That is actually not bad. What would have been bad is an altcoin drop with the dominance pump. If you're an altcoin fan, I do still see dominance having a pretty strong support around 47%. That is probably a level you look to bounce on. If we're looking at like key horizontals here, you would need to break 47 to have any sort of chance of like a massive decline into this 44% range. So I do think we go a bit lower, but it's going to be interesting to see whether we break these previous lows and go even lower. And then that would be probably like a little altcoin rally versus Bitcoin, or, whether we see this be like our third low, in fact, a higher low, which is technically going to come in at the 47% level, and then us just bouncing back up. That is something to keep note of over the next few days. Very important, but a good sign that we've started to kind of top out in our dominance here. So dominance starting to lose a bit of steam. Interesting too, because of this Binance news, a lot of alts being securities, that Bitcoin is still on a relative basis performing worse than a lot of alts. ETH BTC as well. This looks super strong, which is great. So we had our double bottom here at the 6.2 level. We have a higher low. We broke through key horizontal, which we had an SR flip, resistance into support. And now we're pushing up towards the 7-1 level, where I expect us to get rejected. But that's a very that's a good sign that we're starting to build momentum to the upside. I still think this trend at 7-1 is the really key trend. So this is the key zone that I'm looking at for ETH BTC to reclaim, because if you can reclaim this, then I mean you can really target 8-7 again. I know it sounds crazy, but this is your major level to reclaim. If not, if we get rejected, then I mean we can just come all the way back down again and form this kind of macro range. I'll exhibit this range for you. So this would be the range, basically just, back and forth like this, chopping through. You have kind of inter-range supports and resistances at 6.4 and 6.8, which are highlighted here. But in terms of like your range high at 7.2 and then your range low at 6.2 minus this, May deviation, that is your key range at the moment. So breakout to the upside would be great for ETH BTC. I'm keeping my eye on that, but I think in the short term, we may actually see a pullback and we may see that dominance. Maybe it goes a little bit lower, then probably we do see a bounce. I don't expect it to be a straight line, especially not with what's going on at the moment. I want to quickly say before I get to some more questions, that we're doing a huge giveaway on OKX at the moment for new signups. So if you sign up to OKX now, we're giving away $30,000 in rewards. So there's 3 steps. If you sign up using the link in the description for a new OKX account, you will get a $10,000 mystery box. So that's without depositing. Sign up, $10,000 mystery box. What that means is it could be valued up to $10,000. So you might win $5, $10, nothing, $100, $1,000, or $10,000. But those are, the prizes in that range. But if you deposit, you can also get another $10,000 mystery box. So if you deposit more than $50, you don't just get the first mystery box, you get the second mystery box for another $10,000. So that's potentially 20,000 max rewards there. And then step 3, if you decide to go a step further and actually trade, then you can get a third reward of up to $10,000, which will make your total rewards $30,000. And you can get that via a voucher, a trading voucher. So basically, you can do as many of these steps as you like, or just one of these steps. But yeah, 3 steps to win $30,000 max rewards. Massive giveaway for OKX. So if you're not on OKX already, you can sign up using the link in the description. If you have an OKX account already and you're wondering, am I going to miss out on this? Well, no, because you're still eligible for step 3, which is this trading bonus. So make sure you read the terms and conditions. The trading bonus is in accordance with trading volume, as you can see here. More volume, the more rewards. Look at the table. Just make sure you know what you're doing, and also read the terms and conditions. That's very important, of course, whenever you're entering a trading comp. But yeah, registration for this ends in 25 days. So this is a limited offer for the next 25 days. So get involved using the link in the description. Let me look at the comments now and see what people say. Someone said he's looking forward to AI content. So am I, bro. So I honestly want to release this content so badly. The only thing that's stopping me is editing, because since it's highly edited now, I have to build a team of editors. And as you know, that takes time because we need to test editors, go back and forth, tweak things, make sure it's to the level that I'm comfortable putting it out. But yeah, I think within the next couple of weeks, that content will start dropping, and I'm super excited. You love ranges? Yeah, well, the funny thing is crypto is just a range game at the moment. It's super, it's not weird because that's just how crypto operates, especially in like a sideways year. I would consider 2023 to be a sideways year. Now, you might think, oh, Miles, this isn't sideways. We've gone from 17 to 30. That's doubling. That's not sideways. But if you look at Bitcoin's history, like this as a general period is, you could attribute this just to being a sideways year. We also saw this in 2019. Okay, we had a huge collapse, which was the pandemic collapse, but this in general was still just a sideways year. So we have these years in crypto where you have 100% ranges, but they're still just ranges. Even here, 2015 as well, you see these periods where we move in like almost 100% ranges, but there's many months where we just go sideways, and this is just another one of those ranges. So that is just the game we're in at the moment. You've got range lows at 18. You've got range highs at 31, and this is still the zone we're in. Until we get a decisive breakout on either side, we are range bound. Now, are there opportunities trading within the range? Hell yeah. 100% there are huge opportunities within the range on alts, on narratives, even on Bitcoin. But if we just zoom out and maintain perspective, it's pretty clear we're still range bound. And even BTC, in terms of BTC dominance, this is still range bound. Right? If you go onto the weekly chart, this will make it even more obvious to exemplify. you can see here on Bitcoin dominance, not ETH BTC, we're in a range. The top being 48, the bottom being 39, and dominance hasn't really made its decisive breakout to either side yet. When that comes, that's going to be your big old dump or your big old season, right? A breakout to the downside is like the alts really start to fly. You break to the upside and Bitcoin versus alts really starts to fly. So we're still in a BTC dominance range here, something that Adam Cochran and I spoke about when I went to Bitcoin Miami. Not Adam Cochran. What am I talking about? Benjamin Cowan. Adam Cochran is just in my head rent free at the moment with all this Binance stuff. Benjamin Cowan. Sorry, Ben. Yeah, we met at Bitcoin Miami and we had a chat at his party and the conference about dominance. As you do, at parties, you want to talk about crypto. It's funny, these crypto events end up having a lot of crypto talk. It's funny. But he basically agreed with me. He said, look, yeah, there's a lot of hysteria on Twitter, because we actually had an argument on Twitter, like a bad one once. So it was funny meeting him in real life and actually verbally talking through that, which was interesting. But he basically said, look, to be honest, neither of us are wrong or right, because we're still in a range. So, bulls get really Bitcoin dominance bulls get really euphoric into resistance, and the altcoin bulls get really euphoric into Bitcoin dominance support. But at the end of the day, nothing's changed until we get that major breakout. We're both just wrong or we're both just right. So it was I thought it was good of him to say that, and basically sums it up perfectly, in my opinion. And yeah, a lot of these ranges are pretty clean. $10 Solana again, possible. Let's go through Sol. Sol is one of the alts that looks good, especially on the BTC pair. Like if I look at Sol on the BTC pair, I see like a decent support starting to be generated here, especially on the daily. If we go to the daily chart, we can see, a very strong reclamation of support occurred. We did kind of get rejected, deviated above. So what you don't want to see here is Sol closing under. You actually want to see Sol fight and reclaim this. Reclaim on the daily, and then you can start pushing up. That would be a decent buy on Sol BTC. But just wait, because this daily candle is starting to reverse, and we do want to see it close above this zone here. For your real strong long opportunities. But what is encouraging is we have our higher lows starting to be developed. So Sol BTC looks good. And then on Sol USD, which is your USD pair, let's try and get it. Sol USD. This is also good. So starting to hit this support zone, actually one of my buy zones. Sol USD looks better than Sol Bitcoin, because you have this wick, which is now starting to... this is actually a bullish pattern, close back into support. So what you want to see here, once again, is a daily close. So we really would need that daily candle to close for us to confirm a decent buy there. And that could happen in the next day or so, to be honest. No, not the next day or so. Like that will happen in the next few hours. So keep your eye on that, because Sol actually may end up being a good trade here, but you'll need to have your stop at around 1840 if you're going to take the long there, because we have had a couple of weeks below, so you want to protect yourself there. Maybe a long I end up taking on the premise that maybe we see a slight bounce after this sell-off. Is $10 possible again? I mean, yeah, it is possible. Is it probable? I don't know. It's pretty 50-50 for me. I think it's not that unlikely. It's not that unlikely. I'd say it's probably 50-50 if I had to put a percentage on it. And crypto is probabilities, right? There's no absolutes in crypto. Sol is a security, yeah. Everything's a bloody security at the moment, according to the SEC. New TikTok AI. Glad you're liking the new TikTok, Jeremy. I appreciate that. I also had a couple questions here about where do I trade? I can't trade on OKX. For the ones that can't trade on, someone said, how come my chat doesn't go to the screen? Because we need to select it, Steven. We need to select it. You got to be selected to get on the screen. But, if we click on it, it'll come up. So the guys that were saying, I can't trade on OKX, there's one way around this. If you trade on an exchange like Prime XBT, then you don't need to KYC if you're in the US. So for the ones that can't trade over on OKX, you can actually, just let me log into my account here and not dox my password. There we go. You can actually trade on Prime XBT with no KYC and get a 20% deposit bonus. So we're still running this promo for a limited time, which is essentially, if you deposit $100, you get $200 worth of a bonus. It's huge. If you deposit 1,000, you get 100, you get 20, 1,000, you get 200, and so on and so forth, up to 6,000. So if you deposit, $20,000, you'll actually get a $4,000 deposit bonus. So pretty big 20% bonus for the ones that use the code miles20 when they sign up. There's a link in the description to that. And yeah, use that link to sign up and deposit for that deposit bonus. This is a good one for the ones that don't want a KYC. And if you can't do it on OKX. So that's a nice promo for you guys. Someone said he's looking forward to AI content as well. Love it. I think that's it for now. I think we've covered a lot. We've covered the Binance news. We've covered, how I'm feeling about the market. We've covered altcoins. I think that's it for now. I don't want to bore you for too long, but hopefully you've learned something. You're updated. I wouldn't be panicking. Just to kind of summarize here. Sure, we're going to have headwinds in the short term, but you just have to stick to the mission, which is creating your own edge in crypto, using this downtime when the market is bored to actually become a better investor, better researcher, because when everyone floods back in, which they inevitably will, you'll have the edge on everyone because you've been in a bear market researching and leveling up on your skills. I know it's hard, like mentally, without that instant gratification to like dive deep into crypto now, but it's counterintuitive, but now is actually the time when you should be doing that. It doesn't come easy. Like the guys that were really focused last bear market, look at what happened to them in 2021. Look at what happened to them in 2022. They made so much money because they were focused in 2018 and 2019 when all of the guys that just came in left. So don't be one of the guys that just leaves because you're bored. Find ways to make it entertaining for yourself and try and stick to the mission long term. That's something I'm focused on doing. And hopefully we can all end up benefiting together long term. So Cryptos Are Us says, what crypto are you DCAing right now? Let me know in the comments what you're DCAing into right now. Are you DCAing? There are a few things I'm buying. Perp DEXs, I think kind of have an interesting narrative around them. So I'm DCAing to some of them, DCAing to some liquid staking stuff. ETH, Bitcoin, of course. Render, I'm interested in. A few of the, Solana, even I'm getting interested in. I'm not going too heavy because I think we can definitely go lower, but I'm still nibbling at some of the stuff I like because I'm, building out a nice long-term portfolio. But I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I will see you in the next one. Remember, link in the description to the OKX and Prime XBT promos as well as the TikTok giveaway. And I will see you later. Peace out.